You went to bed on time. You tried to rest. You even gave yourself permission to slow down. And yet, you woke up tired again. Not the normal kind of tired that disappears after coffee, and not the kind that comes from a long day of physical work. This is different. This is the quiet, persistent exhaustion that follows you even after you supposedly did everything right. Most people assume the answer must be sleep. Maybe you need more hours. Maybe your schedule is off. Maybe your body is the problem. But what if the real issue is not how much you rest, but what your brain never stops carrying? Because in the modern world, many people are not physically tired. They are mentally saturated. Your brain was not designed to process hundreds of micro-decisions before noon. It was not designed to constantly switch context between messages, notifications, tabs, and unfinished tasks. And yet, this is exactly what most people do every single day. The result is a very specific kind of fatigue that sleep alone cannot repair. It is subtle at first, almost invisible, but over time it becomes the background condition of your daily life. Think about how your day actually unfolds. You wake up, and within minutes your attention is already fragmented. A notification pulls you one way. An email pulls you another. A small worry about work sits quietly in the background. None of these feel heavy in isolation, which is why they are so easy to ignore. But together they create what psychologists call cognitive load, the total amount of mental effort your brain is forced to manage at once. When that load stays elevated for too long, something gradual begins to happen. Your brain does not shut down dramatically, and it does not send a clear warning signal. Instead, it slowly reduces your sense of energy, focus, and clarity until tiredness becomes your new baseline. This is why many people today experience a confusing pattern. They sleep 7 or 8 hours, but they wake up feeling like their mind never truly powered down. Because in many cases, it didn't. Modern stress is rarely explosive. It is ambient, low-level, and constant. It lives in the background of your thoughts like quiet static that never fully disappears. Your nervous system keeps the score even when you consciously believe everything is fine. Every unfinished task your brain is tracking consumes a small amount of mental bandwidth. Every open loop, every message you still need to answer, every decision you have postponed, every small uncertainty, occupies space in working memory. Individually, they seem harmless. Collectively, they create pressure that slowly converts into fatigue. What makes this especially deceptive is that nothing feels dramatically wrong at first. You are still functioning. You are still productive enough. From the outside, your life may even look normal. But your baseline energy quietly drops lower and lower. By the time most people notice the pattern, the exhaustion already feels familiar, almost expected. There is another layer that quietly amplifies the problem. The modern environment constantly stimulates the brain without allowing it to complete full recovery cycles. Deep mental rest does not happen simply because your eyes are closed. It happens when your nervous system feels safe enough to fully downshift. Now think honestly about the last time your mind was truly quiet. Not distracted. Not numbed by scrolling. Not half-resting while something played in the background. Truly quiet. For many people, that moment rarely happens anymore. Instead, the brain lives in a state of partial activation almost all day. Even leisure time is often filled with fast inputs, short videos, constant novelty, endless switching between small bursts of stimulation. This trains the brain to expect continuous engagement, but it also prevents deeper forms of recovery. It is similar to leaving a car engine idling all night. The car is technically not moving, but it is still burning fuel. Your brain behaves in a remarkably similar way. There is also an emotional component that often goes unnoticed because it rarely becomes dramatic enough to demand attention. Chronic low-grade stress keeps cortisol slightly elevated. Not enough to trigger panic, but enough to keep your system quietly alert. When this state becomes persistent, the body never fully enters its deepest restorative modes. Sleep becomes lighter, recovery becomes incomplete, and the next day begins with a subtle energy deficit already in place. When that deficit repeats across weeks and months, the exhaustion compounds in a way that feels mysterious to the person experiencing it. This is why the usual advice often fails. Just sleep more, helps only when sleep is the primary bottleneck. But for many modern knowledge workers and students, the real bottleneck is mental saturation combined with emotional background stress. Until that is addressed, rest will continue to feel strangely ineffective. You may have already noticed this pattern in your own life. Days when you technically did less physical work but felt more drained than ever, weekends that were supposed to restore you but somehow left you feeling flat, or moments when even small tasks felt heavier than they logically should. None of this is random. Your brain is extremely sensitive to unfinished cognitive loops, constant context switching, and persistent low-level uncertainty. When these stack up, the system gradually shifts into conservation mode. Focus drops. Motivation weakens. Energy becomes unstable. From the outside, it looks like simple tiredness, but internally it is much closer to cognitive overload. The important part, and the part most people miss, is that this state is highly reversible once you understand what is actually happening. The goal is not just more rest. It is cleaner mental cycles. That means reducing unnecessary context switching, closing open loops when possible, and creating small pockets of real mental silence during the day. It also means allowing the nervous system to experience true downshifts instead of constant partial stimulation. Even small changes here can produce disproportionate relief because they target the real bottleneck instead of the obvious one. You do not need a perfect routine or extreme discipline, but you do need to recognize that modern exhaustion is often less about physical depletion and more about cognitive saturation. Once you see this pattern clearly, many confusing experiences begin to make sense. You understand why 8 hours of sleep sometimes fail to restore you, why breaks filled with scrolling rarely refresh your mind, and why your energy occasionally returns quickly after moments of genuine quiet. Your system is not broken. It is overloaded. And overloaded systems do not recover through time alone. They recover through reduction of unnecessary load. The people who regain stable energy in the modern world are rarely the ones who simply push harder or sleep longer. They are usually the ones who learn to manage their mental bandwidth with intention. They protect their focus more carefully. They reduce fragmentation where they can. They create space for the nervous system to actually power down. From the outside, these changes look small. From the inside, the effect is profound, because the real problem was never just fatigue. It was invisible pressure accumulating in the background of the mind. If this pattern felt uncomfortably familiar, that is not a bad sign. It simply means you are finally seeing the mechanism clearly. And awareness is always the first point where the cycle can begin to change. Subscribe to understand the business world through psychology.